Welcome back to White Mountains. Today I have one of my favorite realtors, Chellsey Latham, in the house from Keller Williams Realty. Lakes and mountains, you cover the best of both worlds.
I love it.
And
it's
so,
who I am.
I know. And so you moved up, what, how long ago now?
This will be our second year here as full-time residents, but we've been coming up here kind of my whole life. My family owned a house in Bartlett. We spent a lot of time at Bretton Woods, and I kind of always knew that I wanted to be up here full-time. It just took a while. Originally, I'm from southern New Hampshire.
Okay.
And this is just, I've done a lot of traveling. I've gone out west, come back, left, come back, and this is where we wanted to be.
Good.
So I'm happy to be here full-time.
So you got yourself a house up here, and then you decided, you know what, I'm going to help bring everyone else in
Yeah.
here, too.
Kinda,
it's
yeah.
like, who wouldn't want to live here?
No, who wouldn't want to live here?
Right?
Exactly. It's kind of, if you're an outdoor person, like me and my husband are, it makes sense. There's everything here that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
In all seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you work for Keller Williams.
Keller Williams, Lakes and Mountains.
Lakes and mountains. And so you cover some broad territory then.
Yeah, I mean, I go kind of up towards Twin Mountain, and then even down towards Ossipee, and then the Lakes region as well. So it's fairly broad for such a small state, but we are a small state, so I don't mind. And I actually also used to live in the Lakes region more directly into the Lake Winnipesaukee area.
Yeah.
On both the north and south side of the lake. So it's just territory that I know. I used to own a retail business there as well as a restaurant. So I have a lot of intel on that area. And we were avid boaters as well. So
Good.
yeah.
So so being up here, what is the majority of your business, would you say, as a real estate agent?
It's definitely the vacation market, the vacation rental, second home market.
Makes sense.
Investment properties. There has been a lot of publicity for our area, with REI coming up. I'm so happy that they're here. It gives us great presence. But as we continue to invite more people to the valley, our real estate market is expanding in the sense that people want to buy, but there's not enough for people to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also areas where, having the rental aspect, you're not allowed. You're not permitted to do it in some of these associations, which is good. If that's something that you don't want to have in your community, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it is getting hard with having more people coming to the area and not having the housing to
accommodate.
Yeah, to accommodate. Yeah.
Even between the hotels and the short-term rentals and the Air B&B and the whole 9 yards.
I would have to say we've got 3 big hotels, corporations building here. The Hilton's going up. There's talk of a new one going in at Cranmore.
Wow.
Possibly. I mean, Market Basket is eventually one day going to be here. That's a big entity. So to say that there's a downturn for the inns and that they're being so affected by this second home owner who's vacation renting their property, I think that's cutting it a little bit close. If these corporations are building here, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just to build. These guys, they pay for analytics to be done. They have people on this full time.
Yep.
So it just tells me that there's just more people coming.
Exactly.
And how are we as a community going to embrace that in a positive way? There's been a lot of backlash on the short-term rentals right now. Almost daily you see writings on both sides, against them, for them. Community members, neighbors, the retirement community, people, the millennials trying to move in here who want to be here. I happen to be one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to be up here if you're our age, I tell you. It's not easy.
It is. There is some sacrifice involved with living here, but to me and my husband, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it to be here. We love it here so much.
Yeah.
But as far as the short-term market goes, it's definitely, been a battle in the last couple of years. We have a lot of people who have been in these communities for a long time that have repeatedly said, we're destroying the communities by allowing all of these short-term rentals, and we are, it's not the same, and it isn't the same. But we've also invited more people to the area, and
that's how our area thrives, is
right.
on tourism.
Most
businesses wouldn't be in business if we didn't have the tourism.
It's retail and tourism.
Yep.
That's our backbone. It's like it's the artery of life, and to try to start regulating that further, it could potentially have consequences. We don't know what those are going to be yet. A lot of buyers here that I see that are looking close to downtown, they don't realize that there is a precinct. It's called the KLP, the Carriage Lighting Precinct. And in that zone, which you can find now on our website, it's the Kearsarge Lighting Precinct. I think it's .org, but it will come up when you pull it up. There's a map of what those parameters are, and if you are within those parameters and you are a homeowner and you do not live on the property, you are not allowed to short-term rent. That's in the rule book. The rule book's about 60 years old. Up until the last few years, those rules were not enforced. So there is now a good-sized lawsuit against a few homes that has been going on, and the residents that are in the precinct are having to pay for that. There is a cap on that limit. We're about 50% there right now. The KLP versus these few homeowners who have had these short-term rentals for several years. So it's definitely something to be aware of as a new person coming into the valley and shopping for real estate. The Kearsarge Lighting Precinct is a very desirable place to be. It's one of the nicest residential neighborhoods that we have. And I do feel that with the push for more people coming here and the second home market being 95% of my business, I find it a little bit scary to either choose to start really cranking down on that rule and dissipate short-term rentals altogether, and even limit them. When you start adding more and more rules, it becomes a deterrent. So I do feel like at this point, to enforce responsibility and also give people their homeownership rights, which in the state of New Hampshire, you have the right to rent, whether it's short or long term. Yeah. You also have the right to quiet enjoyment, which serves the homeowner as well as your neighbors. Yeah. So that's both sides there being presented. Unfortunately, we have had some unruly, large houses pack people in, and parking gets out of hand, safety becomes an issue, and neighbors are bothered, and noise becomes an issue. I myself have short-term rentals, and I can tell you that we have had zero problems with any of this. And it's because of the rules that I put in place. People know when they rent with me, there's guidelines, there's parameters that you have to meet, or you're going to pay for it. I feel as a property owner, as a short-term property homeowner, we could do better in that. There's a lot of tools out there now. There's Noiseware that you can use in your home and operate off of an app. There's security parameters. There's so many awesome companies in the Valley that can help you manage your property better. I feel that is what we should be, even as realtors, we should be giving people those tools so that they can responsibly operate. So
kind of putting the responsibility back onto the homeowner to make the rules for their short-term rentals, instead of putting the responsibility on the larger, the KLP to put the rules on the homeowners.
Well, so a concern that I've continually brought up is, okay, we put this on, just if we're just talking about the precinct. We could talk about the town of Conway as well, as a town, because this has come up. There's a lot happening. There's a lot going on in Portsmouth, New Hampshire now regarding short-term rentals. They just ruled against them in certain areas. We are super tourism-based. To start eliminating that, I don't think is an option for us. We don't have the commerce, the business, the industry that a city like Portsmouth has.
Yeah. Because they're a port.
Right? Exactly. It's just a little bit of a, so when you start, comparing that.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, and how the suits are going with these rulings, you got to think about that in the back of your mind. But with the KLP, in the sense that, we had the rule, didn't enforce it. If we start enforcing a rule, whether it's the one we have or a new one, how are we going to do that with just the commissioners that we have? We've discussed bringing in a third-party company in which a permitting process would be put in place. And you can actually see some of the new, there's 5 new rulings that could be possibilities for the KLP that we're going to be voting on as residents or property owners on March 19th. There's a public input session, actually this coming Monday, the 25th at 7 p.m. It's at the North Conway Water Precinct. Everyone is welcome to that.
Okay.
I think that, if you own short-term rental property here, that's something you want to keep an eye on, because the town is watching what happens with KLP as well.
Very interesting. I didn't know about all this was happening in the valley.
There's a lot happening, for sure. Education to me is a huge part of who I am, and I like being in the know, and I like being able to give my clients that information so that they can make better decisions.
Yeah. And then that will reflect, like I said, you're giving the responsibility by giving them that information onto the homeowner to hopefully be able to, make the right decisions for their short-term rentals if they do have those, and put those guidelines out that they need to, and use the technology and the apps and all the stuff that you've listed.
Yeah, it's just not as simple anymore. Maybe 50 years ago, we had short-term rentals then as well here in the Valley. It's not something that's brand new. The internet is new.
Yeah.
HomeAway came to the Valley. Air B&B came into the Valley right around 2008, 2009. So knowing that, has it grown? Absolutely. It's actually a fairly saturated market now. People who had short-term rentals prior to that actually made more money. An Airbnb statistic that was published this past year was the average gross that a vacation property owner makes per year is only $7,000. Which brings me to the point of commercial activity. That's also come up in our newspaper articles lately, of the scare tactic of these large commercial companies coming in and starting and buying all these properties, these homes. If you're making $7,000 to $10,000 a year on your home to cover your expenses or your taxes so that you can have that second home, that's not a commercial entity.
Yeah.
And renting, as I had mentioned earlier, in the state of New Hampshire, that is your right. So there's definitely gray area there. We could really get into what commercial property is and isn't. But this isn't where people are making full-time salaries.
Yeah.
It's.
And someone had mentioned to me recently, I can't remember what conversation or who it was, but they did say that they knew someone that had a second home, and pretty much what they made was just enough to offset having being able to go up there and utilize it when they want to go utilize it.
It's fairly typical, and actually, it's sometimes surprising. When I speak to a buyer and we do an analysis on a home of what the potential income could be, and we have another company that I work closely with to do that, who does the management of the short-term rental, but they realize, wow, I'm really just going to cover my expenses here. And it's like, you're still going to have insurance. You got to have renter's insurance, which is fairly expensive for the short-term market. You got to pay for linens. You got to restock the house with toiletries, and if something breaks, you got to fix it. Hopefully, your renter's insurance will cover you there. Yeah. But it's not just a free ride to make money.
Yep.
And I would just hope that that's not the concept that's perceived.
So basically, everyone's going to play nice in the same sandbox.
Yeah. It would be nice. It would be nice. I mean, that's like thinking magical thoughts. But and I understand the retirement community. They want a quiet place to live. I understand some of these guys raise their families in these communities. It's just you can't go back in time. Time is changing. Time is evolving. And I'm not in any way saying too bad to that. I think we need to find common ground. Yeah, for sure.
I like it. I like that perspective.
Me too.
We just all need to get along.
Yeah.
But so short-term rental market is huge, and the average short-term rental, what would you say is?
The average short-term rental is right around $279,000.
Okay.
$279,000, which we've had a lot of backlash on workforce housing being affected by that. Workforce housing is below $280,000. It's more in the low twos for a purchase for workforce housing. So to say that our vacation rental buyers, homeowners are affecting the workforce housing is statistically not a factor here. We do need more workforce housing here, absolutely.
Yeah.
These large 3,000 plus square foot homes with mountain views. I mean, yes, what workforce, what person working in the workforce wouldn't want that? But it's but in the budget, that's not what it is.
Exactly.
And that is a recent statistic over the last year.
Which is why we need the tiny house community.
I would love a tiny house community.
Chelsea's going to get on
I
that.
would love a tiny house community.
We're not going to talk about this in the break.
Yes, absolutely. I'm all about tiny
Investors?
houses. Yes, please.
Just so you know.
Please. My husband is a builder here in town.
Yes. That would be fantastic.
We've built one in the Lakes region. We also build camper vans, so we're big on small, minimalist type people.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that could have a place here.
I mentioned it to some higher powers in the New Hampshire area. I said, hey, we need a tiny house community. Who's going to get on this idea? Someone is going to at some point.
It would be great. It would definitely be great. And maybe not super tiny, maybe just small, just so that growing families can utilize the space in a comfortable way. But it would definitely be something. I've gotten calls. Oh, is there a tiny house community in the mountains? And it's odd that I'm the one getting the calls because they don't know who I am, but it does happen.
They're just on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Anything's possible.
Well, we'll keep that in our back pocket.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we didn't cover that we want to make sure? I think we covered most of
I think we're good.
what we were trying to talk about. But you know what? Why don't you come back and we can always talk more?
I will be back.
It's been so nice to have you on the show,
You too.
Chelsey.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, and make sure you stay tuned. If you want to check out Keller Williams online,
Listitwithlatham.com.
okay, there you go. All right, and we'll be right back. Make sure you stay tuned.